Hi, Doug.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. Hope everyone's doing okay out there. I'm in the process of admitting everyone from the waiting room.
I see.
The board's going to ask if you could kindly turn off your video.
Absolutely.
It helps with the streaming of this when we get so many people on one call.
Yeah, I will.
And then,
I just wanted to say hi. I'm here.
Yeah, no problem. It's good to see everyone. And then we're going to ask you to mute as well. So
Absolutely.
there will be an opportunity for everyone to ask questions. I did receive some by email prior to the meeting. And then when we get to that portion of the agenda, if you have a question, we're going to ask you to type it into the chat feature at the appropriate time. And I'll go through this all again once I get everyone admitted here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Doug.
Hi, everyone.
Is everybody there?
Your audio's on.
My audio's on. Thanks, babe.
Hello again, everyone. Thanks for attending tonight. I did mention this one other time, but since there's still people logging on, the board is kindly asking, and I'm asking as well, if you could kindly turn off your video when you come into the meeting tonight, because it'll help with the streaming with the board members if not everyone has their video on at one time. And also, you will be muted throughout the meeting. There will be a time in the agenda where we'll be asking for questions from the public on agenda items first, and then a second portion where you can ask anything that is pertaining to the district at large. At that time, we'll be asking you to enter your question into the chat feature. And if you could kindly make sure you enter your name and your address at that time, I'll be reading the questions and the comments to the board. That way we can hopefully avoid confusion with so many people in attendance. But we're happy to see everyone and hope everyone out there is staying safe and healthy. So we'll get going here in a couple minutes. Kathy, it looks like most of the people that registered have logged on, so I guess we can start whenever you feel is appropriate.
Can you hear me, Doug?
I can.
All right. Okay. Just get my agenda up here. get started. Thank you, Doug. There we go. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending this evening. Doug, you can hear me, correct?
I can hear you fine, yes.
Okay. Please bear with us as we proceed through our first virtual board meeting. We might have a few bumps and bruises, but we'll do our best to keep things very smooth. Okay. One question, I should ask this earlier. Megan, will you be keeping track of the time?
Yes, I will.
Okay, all right. All right, call the meeting to order. The regular monthly board meeting of the Ambridge Area School District Board of Directors on Wednesday, April 15th, 2020 is now called to order. We will now have flag salute. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
for all.
This meeting is being recorded for district purposes. It is or may be published in part or in its entirety on the district's website without the express permission of meeting participants. Can I have a roll call, please, June? June?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Angus,
Here.
Miss Gill,
Here.
Mr. Campbellong,
Here.
Mrs. Kehoe,
She's here. I don't know. She must be on mute.
okay. Mrs. Mylan,
Here,
Miss Pedigo, Miss Trimber,
Here.
Miss Young, Mrs. Fisher,
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. Move forward to the moment of silence. Please take a moment of silence to remember our Ambridge Interim Police Chief Mark Bermudez and Aliquippa Police Chief Robert Spivak. Thank you. Sunshine Law, please. Sunshine Act, please.
Board of School Directors held an executive session on Wednesday, April 15th to discuss personnel matters, information, strategy, and/or negotiations sessions relating to the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement, matters subject to attorney-client privilege and other confidentiality laws.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the approval of policy, Mrs. Kehoe.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 006.1, remote attendance at meetings, first and final reading.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus,
Excuse me, we're going to need a second on that.
Sure.
Second,
who said that?
Mr. Campbellong.
Thank you. Mr. Angus,
Yes.
Miss Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Campbellong,
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan,
yes,
Ms. Trimber,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Doug, I'm just getting a text from some people that asking everybody to turn their microphone off unless they're speaking or being spoken to because they can hear background noises. I don't know if anybody else is having a problem there. Okay. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Today, Dr. Pascarella and I put out correspondence that a lot of community members were asking questions about graduation, the prom, and a number of other issues, including grading, AP classes, and QPA quality point averages. And I sent that out as a correspondence, and then I'll answer any questions that we received earlier when it's time in the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. King. Any correspondence this evening?
No correspondence.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to, can I have a motion to accept or correct the minutes of the February 12th meet and discuss voting meeting, 12th meet and discuss non-voting meeting, and February 19th board meeting?
So moved.
So I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mylan.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
I was on mute.
Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report dated February and March 2020?
So
I'll
moved.
make that motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Moving forward, do we have any amendments or addendums to the agenda or approval this evening? Nothing to report this evening. Moving on, recognition and presentations, nothing this evening. Moving forward to public comment. At this time, district residents may come forward to comment on agenda items only. Each person must state their first and last name and address prior to speaking. Each resident will be allowed 3 minutes and can speak only once. This period for public comment prior to the standing committee reports will be limited to 1/2 hour. Although not required, board members, well, sorry about that, cut out on me. Board members desiring to address questions or concerns may do so after the resident's comment, question, or at the conclusion of the committee reports. There will still be an opportunity for residents to comment on any business relevant to the Ambridge Area School District under old and new business at the end of the meeting. Mr. McClausен?
Okay, we have several questions that were received prior to the meeting, and I'm going to go through them. The first one is from Laura Wargo. She's a student at the high school. She is a senior at Ambridge, and the other seniors, and we have no idea what is going on with our senior projects and graduation, what is going to happen with senior projects, our diplomas, and our caps and gowns. Ron and Cindy Gruca from Economy Borough had a list of questions. How will grades be handled for the remainder of the year? How will we request a final transcript for our senior to be sent to her college? Are there plans to reschedule the prom? Are there plans to reschedule graduation? How will we get our kids' yearbooks? How will we get the seniors Justin's orders of caps and gowns and graduation announcements? Will senior field trip money be refunded? We already paid for the the NHS field trip, $20. Patty Kuga of Ambridge had concerning graduation. I believe the seniors deserve a graduation ceremony. They have worked hard all these years to graduate. They should be able to walk across the stage and receive their diploma in front of everyone, acknowledging that everyone that they did it, just like all the other classes before them. Jen Kamelzeski, Economy Borough, graduation for our seniors. Do you have anything in the plans for this yet? I understand social distancing needs to be lifted. Could we limit the students to just 2 parents? And if it's held outside, we could distance ourselves. Just ideas. These kids deserve this. Barb Kowalski, Ambridge. How will grades for 3rd and 4th 9 weeks be handled? How will this affect class rankings? This is important for students applying for college in the fall. How is work graded when it is considered voluntary? Leanne Holman from Economy Borough. Do you know if they are going to discuss schoolwork and how they are going to grade? It's hard to get them to stay focused when all I hear from them is it's optional. But at the same time, my senior daughter's teacher is telling her if her assignments are not completed, her grade will be dropped. It is very confusing. Donna Fejinok at Baden, I want to sincerely thank you for considering at least holding the graduation ceremony for these young adults now who have worked so very hard. From Sharon Kagurski at Baden, we are hoping seniors will have graduation at some point this summer inside or out on the football field. Thank you. I'm sure it is. Sure, you as board members are doing everything possible in these unprecedented times. Julie Henry of Baden, will they have graduation? If not, will we get refunds on caps and gowns we purchased? What about personal possessions left in the lockers at the school? Diplomas, yearbooks. Lincoln Park has several dates set up and one is a makeup date in December. I'm not asking for a hard date, but some information would be nice. Casey DeVinny at Baden, will the Steel Drum field trip set in June still be allowed or should it be canceled? Those are the questions I received. I don't know if anyone has, Sandy Kowal on the chat has asked, under finance, could you explain 3 and 4? Thanks.
Okay.
I can probably address 3 and 4 if I can get to it here. Under Finance 3, those are the payments that are made from the Student Activity Fund. Prior to recently, we haven't really been reporting all the activity and all the funds, but technically we should be, so we've just started that process. We've always, there are different club expenditures that the students have authorized. So those are the total amount for those expenditures. And then number 4 is the capital projects expenditures. That is money related to the paving project that took place at Economy this summer or this spring, as well as I think there's an amount in there to finish up the bridge project at the high school. I think it was for the fencing that was just recently installed at the front of the high school. So those are those 2 amounts.
Thank you, Doug.
And I think a lot of the other questions were probably answered with the superintendent's letter that went out earlier today to the public.
Doug, for clarification on the student activity fund, and this is Terry, that 27,000, that is actually what is paid to the student organizations as they requested. Is that correct?
That is, it's actually not 27,000. I think the original budget had or agenda had a misprint. It's 2,000. Hold on, I'm gonna grab the number again. It's $2,529.64. And those are expenditures. All the expenditures in the Student Activity Fund are authorized by the student officers and the sponsors. And I don't know specifically, I can look it up while we're
That's okay.
going through
Thank
the
you.
agenda, and I can
Sure.
get the totals for you, but it is in your report that you received
Yes.
with the agenda materials.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I
You're
printed out
welcome.
an old agenda.
Okay, Dr. Pascarilla and/or Mr. King, can you address any of those that maybe were not addressed in the blast and email that was sent out today?
The one thing would be the refunding of the senior trips. The guidance office right now is working on refunding those students because of course their trips are canceled. Also, the kids would get their caps and gowns and their yearbooks. When the governor would allow us to come back into the buildings, we would have a half day of school and we'd have our locker clean out, and then we would distribute the caps and gowns and yearbooks, and the kids would get their personal belongings. That's every district in the county is doing it actually.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else we missed there in addressing in those questions?
I think Mr. King shared that well, and hopefully the communication sent out today answered the majority of these questions. And obviously safety is paramount, as I've stated a few times before, but we want to work very diligently as a group to try to offer all these important events for the milestones that our seniors and other students have reached. So it's just going to come down to guidance and making sure that from the state and making sure that, we operate in a very safe and healthy manner. And hopefully our hope is we'll continue to work on being able to have these events.
I just saw a comment about the steel drum
Yes.
trip. More than likely, that is going to be canceled, and that would be a May agenda item. But as of now, we have not canceled it yet. I mean, by some miracle, if something's cleared up for June, and then we're able to have it, we would have it. But I don't see that happening right now. But anything's possible.
Okay, thank you, Mr. King. Anything else there? All right. Moving forward to the committee reports, education and technology, Ms. Trimber.
Okay, I would like to make a motion on item number 1 for the 2020-2021 proposed school calendar. Does anybody have any questions on it? Okay, I'd like to approve that if that's okay.
I think it'll probably be better if you read through
We
all
could
the
go through the whole
education
list,
items
right.
and then we'll make the motion.
Right.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
read the highlights.
Items 1 through 5.
Okay, so it's item 1, 2020-2021 proposed school calendar. It's recommended the proposal of the 2020-2021 school year calendar to be approved. Item number 2 is to rescind the field trip for the middle school trip to Gettysburg, PA and Hershey, PA. Also, item number 3 is the uninterpretable power supply, the UPS awarded bids. Number 4 is the BCWAN consortium. It is recommended that the Ambridge Area School District participate in this consortium for telecommunications and internet access services. Pricing through the Beaver County Intermediate Unit is approximately $3,900,000. Let's see, item number 5 is administration to file a continuing of education plan. So it is recommended to authorize the administration to file the final continuity of education plan and any other required filings related to COVID-19 disaster emergency with the Pennsylvania Department of Ed.
And I don't want to interrupt, but I think the amount for the wide area network is $3,900.
Yes, I was just going to go back on that. Sorry.
That's
I don't
okay.
have my glasses on right now, so I apologize to everybody.
Okay, Megan.
Um,
It's okay. We're all, this is uncharted waters for us. So we're trying to do the best we can. Go ahead, Megan. Make your
So
motion.
I was going to say, I would like to make a motion to approve items number 1 through 5, if everyone's okay with that.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Sorry. Mr. Angus,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan,
Yes.
Ms. Trimber,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to finance and budget. Ms. Pedigo was not able to be here this evening. Ms. Trimber, could you please take that?
So yes, item number 1 is the school district monthly bills and salaries. It's recommended that the February monthly school district bill and the February monthly school district personnel salaries that would be paid. It's also recommended that the March monthly school district bills and the March monthly school district personnel salaries be paid. Item number 2 is the cafeteria monthly bills and salaries. It is recommended that the February monthly cafeteria bills and the February monthly cafeteria personnel salaries be paid. Also, it is recommended that the March cafeteria personnel salaries also be paid. Item number 3 is the account fund 81 student activity, which I know Doug touched based on already. It's recommended $2,529.64 be paid from the account fund 81 activity. Item number 4 is the capital project expenditures. It's recommended for February and for March to be paid from the capital projects fund. Item number 5 is the budget transfers. It's recommended to approve budget transfers for February, March 2020. Item number 6 is proposed 2020-2021 Beaver Valley Intermediate Unit budget. It's recommended the 2020-2021 Beaver Valley Intermediate Unit General Operating Budget be approved. It's also further recommended that the board president and secretary be authorized to execute DECO 779 form concerning the Beaver IU budgeting. And item number 7 is RJ Roads Transit, the interim agreement. It is recommended to approve an interim agreement with RJ Roads Transit for the 2019-2020 school year. And that was subject to final solicitor review. Any questions? Okay. If everyone's okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve items number. Was there a question? I'm sorry. Okay. To make a motion to approve items number 1 through 7.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Mylan. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Angus,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan,
Yes.
Ms. Trimber,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Moving on to building. Somebody say something, or was that just interference?
It's just background noise.
Okay. Moving on to building and grounds, Mr. Angus?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for item number 1, which is to re-advertise for electronic bids for the custodial supplies for the next school year.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Angus,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan,
Yes.
Ms. Trimber,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Moving on to athletics, Mr. Campbell?
Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Moving on to public relations, Ms. Gill?
Nothing to report, but I'd like to give a big thank you to the administration and Dr. Pascarola for all their hard work over the past few weeks and considering everything that's going on. So shout out to everyone for all their hard work.
And Mr. King
I'd
as
like to
well.
second
Thank
that.
you.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
All right, moving on to steering and rules, Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes, I'd like to move for the adoption of item number 1, which is policy 113.2, behavior support. It is a final reading. Item number 2, policy 337, controlled substances, paraphernalia, also final reading. Number 3 is policy 233, suspension and expulsion, final reading. Policy number 4, policy 636, oh, I'm sorry, that's 626, procurement, federal programs, and its attachment, final reading. Number 5, policy 703.1, crowdfunding, final reading. Number 6, policy 808, food service, final reading. Number 7 is policy 836, social media, final reading. And number 8, suspension of board policies, and they are listed below. So I need a motion to accept items 1 through 8 as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second that.
Thank you. Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Angus,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan,
Yes.
Ms. Trimber,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Moving on to legislative, Mrs. Mylan?
I have 3 items today, and I'd like to make a motion to approve the 3 items. The first is Resolution 2019-2020-6, and it is calling for charter school funding reform. The second legislative item is the Allegheny County School Health Insurance Consortium mail ballot. And the third is the final local earned income tax return. Do I have a second motion?
Second.
Thank you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan,
Yes.
Ms. Trimber,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes,
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to salary schedule and labor relations, Mrs. Mylan.
I have two items for voting approval this evening, and they are both memorandums of understanding. The first is for the 4-day work week for the summer of 2020 for the support professionals, and the second is the 4-day work week for the summer of 2020 for the local 248 school employees. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Angus,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan,
Yes.
Ms. Trimber,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to personnel, Mr. Angus.
Yes, I have 13 items I'd like to move to approve. The first being the last chance agreement with employee number 267. The second and third both being resignations with regret due to a retirement of 2 employees. Number 4 being FMLAs for several employees. Number 5 being posted clubs and activities for the JROTC Cadet Club. Number 6 is to place some student teachers with us from Slippery Rock and Grove City. Number 7 is to place a student teacher with us for the spring semester for Slippery Rock. Number 8 is adjustments to the stipends for track and field and softball and baseball. Number 9 is to approve the spring coaches for the middle school girls softball. Number 10 would be the student paraeducator positions that need filled both at Highland. Number 11 would be the student teacher for the fall semester from Penn State University. Number 12 would be a long-term substitute for a teacher at Highland Elementary. And number 13 would be the changes in salaries for the elementary and economy before and after school childcare programs.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Kathy, before we can move on, I saw some questions pop up about why we had to retain the spring student teachers on the agenda.
Mr. King.
Mr. King, can you please address that so
Sure.
people realize that there's a specific reason why that is on our agenda tonight?
To my understanding, there has to be a record of placement because you have a lot of student teachers that aren't able to student teach that still need to get their certificates. So they have to have a record of placement with the district in order for them to get their certificates instead of delaying them for another year.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you. Okay,
And
do I have,
I'll second it.
thank you, Ms. Gill. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Angus,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan,
Yes.
Ms. Trimber,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to the Solicitors Report.
I have no specific report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turnbull. Moving forward to the second public comment. It is now time for old and new business. Any district resident who desires to comment on any business relevant to the Ambridge Area School District should now come forward. Each person must state their first and last name and address prior to speaking. Each person will be allowed 3 minutes and can speak only once. Are you seeing any chats there?
Yeah, I have a few chats coming in. First one's from Julie Henry. She said a lot of her questions, concerns were addressed well with the statement that you put out earlier, and she wanted to thank you.
Oh, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Ann Lewis, will teachers be more available for the duration of the semester? They are responding to email, but the students are not being well supported. Much of the work assigned by the high school teachers is not supported by teaching materials. Will this continue, or will they provide more instruction for the duration of the school year using Zoom and other online technologies? Sorry for the late question.
Mr. King or Dr. Pascarella and/or?
I think that, but as teachers get more comfortable with the learning opportunities, they'll evolve and use different platforms, but it would depend on the comfort level of the teacher. Just like 4 weeks ago when the first Zoom meeting, it took me 3 hours to figure out how to log into it. So I think as your comfort level grows, then you're going to start using more technology and better platforms. That's my opinion.
Dr. Pascarelli, do you have anything to add?
I think that was well stated by Mr. King on that. I would just say that, yeah, you know, our goal is to offer that feedback, and I'd like to thank the teaching staff and the parents and the students for being patient. This, I think it'll continue to improve, and I hope that they're able to get the necessary feedback to try to bridge that gap for continuity of education. But I agree with Mr. King. We'll just continue, and I think the process will continue to grow and be better. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just like to add to that, maybe feel free to reach out to the teachers and send an email inquiring with questions for them. I'm sure they would have no problem answering any parental questions if you have concerns there. Does anybody else have anything to add on that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Doug, then moving.
Okay, I was going to continue on. Grace DeBona asked about the student teacher, but I believe we already answered that question. Tracy states, why are we not moving to remote learning like other districts? Assess needs for students in the way of electronics and taking steps to provide all the tools they need. Tracy in Harmony Township asked that.
Dr. Pascarella, can you touch on that, please?
Yes, as I have stated a couple times, although that is important and technology is an excellent tool, my concern right now is for the safety and well-being of our, at this given concern with handing out technology with regards to the social distancing and other recommendations coming out from the CDC and other, and other governmental officials telling us we should err on the side of caution. That's always going to be what I'm going to recommend. That's one thing. I did see something pop up, and I think this kind of relates. Some people may ask, well, why are we doing that for lunch? I'm not sure if that came across, but in case it did, Mr. King and I talked about that. Really need to, because that is essential in order for students and families to get those meals. However, other than that, we just shut down and follow the rules to try to recommended to us by our healthcare professionals to try to, you know, limit the spread of this virus and keep everyone healthy. There's nothing more than what we want to do is to get back to educating our students, get back to the events that we know and love. But at this point, safety has to be the #1 factor. So that's why we have not handed out any of our technological devices at this given point, and asked parents and staff to work together to try to address the standards and learning standards, and eligible content for our students.
Thank you, Dr. Pascarella. Is there anything else, Doug?
Yeah, the next question came from Roger Colwell on economy. Any movement on the basketball coach applications? And #2, how's the budget coming for the next school year? And I guess I can answer the budget question is that we'll be having a public budget Zoom meeting probably in the next couple of weeks. Once we establish a date, we'll advertise that and set it up much similar to this meeting so that people can attend if they wish to attend. I can't really address the basketball coach. I don't know if
Dr. Pascarella, can you?
Yes, as far as the basketball coach goes, we did post that position. Mr. King and the athletic director did do that. But at this given point, just with everything, we want to make sure that we get all the available applicants, in part because of what is recently our state nation. So we are going to post that one more time in a local newspaper for a short amount of time. And then we'd like to proceed with the process to try to locate our next coach. We'll probably have to do that in the form of some of the interviews similar to what we're doing here. But Mr. King and I have intentions on getting the group together to work on that.
Ann Lewis made another comment. I appreciate the comments and the learning curve. As a parent trying to support her children, I just want to know what to expect. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Greg Hensel. Helsel asking, when will we get a first look at next year's school calendar? When will it be available to the public? I think that was just approved tonight, was it not?
Yeah, and we'll send it out tomorrow. Greg, it's just like the old calendars we made where we have a maximum number of days of instruction before Keystone exams, so you'll understand that.
And I
Mr.
think
Clausen,
that's,
do we have others?
just a thank you back to Mr. King for his comment. But that's it. I don't see anything else coming in at this point.
Okay. There are no further questions. We'll move forward. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right, any opposed? All right. Thank you so much for attending this evening and navigating through our uncharted waters here with virtual meetings. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.